Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 243 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on January 7th, 2025. How are all you wonderful folks doing? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Back in the swing of things after the long holidays. We're ramping up efficiency into productivity mode, and it's going to be a wild first quarter. It really will. A lot going on. We got SHOT Show in a couple weeks, some new product launches and accompanying data and analysis, so that's pretty neat. And also, you know what? Some really great testing and analysis in general. It's going to be a great 2025, guys. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. And so on today's episode, as promised, I will be doing the deep dive into the B&T Station 6.9 system. The complete characterization was presented last week and published in Article 6.174 in the standard on the website. Both the included wiped silencer and the optional sold separately training silencer were in that test program. Both tested, both analyzed, and we learned a ton. We really did. We'll go super deep technically today on all aspects of the system, including the gun itself and all the silencer physics. Some never before seen research was published in the article. So buckle up, strap in, have fun, and it'll be a long one. I think this will be a long episode because I do have a lot of things I want to cover in detail. So I don't want, I'm not going to read the article to you, but I am certainly going to discuss the important technical aspects I think you should know. So now on with the show. If you've been here before, of course, welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We are certainly glad to have you. There are timestamps in the episode description for you to skip to wherever you would like. Okay, and in this talk, it's one topic, but I believe there'll be at least 4 subtopics. So you'll be able to, there'll be timestamps and you'll be able to skip to them. Okay, no problem. If you want to stick around a little bit longer in the intro, I am going to speak to you about the companies who make this podcast possible every week. Okay, over almost 250 episodes here. It's crazy. This podcast is brought to you by Legion Athletics. Nothing you do, exercise, sports, backgammon, whatever you do, you have to do things consistently if you want to be good at them, correct? Right. You have to do these all the time if you want to excel. Legion Athletics can help you with that. They can supplement your nutrition regimen and your health. Whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, vitamins, minerals, immune system boosting supplements, all based on science, all in the maximum clinically effective dosages. Do they have everything you need? Well, no one does, but they do have a lot. Visit legionathletics.com. There's a link in the show notes, code word PEWScience to save 20% off your first order. Keep using that code, get 10% off net, same as cash going forward. Help the podcast, help yourself. This podcast is also brought to you by Silencer Shop, largest distributor of silencers in the world. They've done a lot for consumers. They've done a lot for the industry. They've done a lot for dealers. If you're a new dealer looking to get started in the space, you don't want to hold inventory, you want to maintain low overhead, maybe just use the kiosk. Silencer Shop might be the people for you. Okay, do your fingerprints and photos electronically. Cut down on errors, simplify your silencer purchasing process, get a money back guarantee. It's pretty good. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors. Just you and your silencer with no drama. Truly a silencer ownership simplified. Podcast is also brought to you by the fine folks from Top Gun Range Houston. If you are in the Houston area, which chances are you might be since there's tons of you there that listen to this, 15-lane indoor shooting range. Largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas, which is a big place. You can rent pistols and rifles and shotguns and machine guns, and you can rent silencers, which is huge. That's actually not common historically, but common now at Top Gun Range. You can rent all the stuff that we test and shoot it yourself. Get a feel for it, as it were. Check out their inventory at topgunrange.com. Find them on Instagram at Top Gun Range. Kyle and his crew are the best around. Also, the podcast is brought to you by Capital Armory. Yeah, it is no secret that silencers are in high demand. And at the current time, approval times are fast. Things are heading out of stock. You're scrambling. You're trying to get your silencer fix. You know what? As a consumer, you need options, and Capital Armory is here to help with that. And they have a pretty unique twist. Not only do they have a large selection of silencers that help you with a painful paperwork, they can ship your silencer directly to you, directly to your door. If you live in one of the 42 states where silencers are legal, you can order a silencer in your living room and have it shipped directly to that same living room. It really is that easy. Capital Armory, silencer shipped directly to your door. And finally, and most importantly, now and forever, this podcast is sponsored by the Pew Science Laboratory. My name is Jay. Good to meet you. I'm the technical director of the lab, and the interest of public education. We sponsor this podcast. We run a public research effort. We continue with our mandate and goal to push the silencer industry forward, one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It's the simplest and most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. That's right. Pew Science is the home of the silencer sound standard. 7 sections of the most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the entire known universe, all available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com. And you yourself can support this podcast. You can support Pew Science. You can support all the public testing we do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. It's awesome. It helps a lot. Donate feature on the website helps too. And you know what? If times are tight and the impending apocalypse has got you down, you don't have to spend any money. Just, spread the word. Give us a like and subscribe on the YouTubes, on the Spotifys, on the iTunes, or the Amazon Music, or Facebook, or Instagram, wherever we publish information, wherever you get your podcast. Show us some love, and also maybe tell your friends. Let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. Today on this podcast, we have one primary topic, but we have several subtopics. Okay, so what we will do is, let me do this. I will mark the first timestamp as the topic introduction at a time of 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Okay, and so we'll do the introduction to this topic. It's Sound Signature Review 6174, the B&T Station 6.9 with the wiped 6.9 silencer and the training 6.9 silencer, and this is the full technical discussion of the article published last week. Okay, and there were 2 silencers on this new weapon featured in this test program. Okay, and so we'll kick off the intro now, and then we will have 3 other subtopics. We'll do this topic intro, then we're going to go through the Station 6.9 pistol operational overview, so how the pistol works and everything like that. Then we're going to go through the wiped 6.9 silencer physics and behavior, and then finally we're going to go through the training silencer performance. Okay, so let's kick off the topic intro now. Again, this is one main topic because it's one main article, but there's really 4 main subjects I want to go through. So topic intro, I really want to introduce you to this whole thing, and there's a method to the madness here, and it's really important because typically when we speak about a suppressed system, the weapon itself has been discussed from the very beginning of the research pedigree, right? Or it's ubiquitous enough such that folks have a good handle on the basic mechanics, the basic operation of the weapon, and all the idiosyncrasies, right? So for example, most folks who listen to this podcast know if you are running an HK P30L, you want to use a factory HK threaded barrel, right? Of course, and what do you also do? Well, you're using factory HK mags. No brainer, right? No brainer, guy. You guys, this is old hat to you. And what do you not do? Well, you don't do weird aftermarket stuff because you want reliability, you want consistency, you want quality. So you're doing what you need to do. That's one example. And also, here's another example. Most folks that listen to this podcast know. Excuse me. Most folks know if you're running an MP5, your extractor spring is a wear item, right? Something like this is a good example. Most folks know if you're running a Mark 18, what do you need to do? Well, you need to clean the bolt carrier group, maybe inspect your buffer spring regularly. That's a typical AR user list, something like that. You understand. These are things that are pretty common knowledge for users of those test hosts, right? Maybe not common knowledge for all firearm owners because, there's levels, but remember, you folks that listen to this, you are a cut above. If you are listening to this podcast, you are a few steps ahead. Okay, we know that. And usually we generally only cover the silencers, but not today. Today we're going to go over the weapon first, and then we're going to go over the wiped silencer and how it works, and then we're going to look at the test data and analysis, and we're going to go to the same thing with the training silencer. So by the end of this podcast, you should fully understand the Station 6.9. You should have no questions about, you can have questions, that's fine, but you might just know everything, which is the good place to be. It's a really good place to be when you fully characterize something. So everything we talk about today is in the published article on the website. It is the most recent one, number 6.174, the 174th article in Section 6 of the Silencer Sound Standard. Members are encouraged to pull up the member review to follow along when prompted, when I prompt you, which I will later. But the free version, too, it's available to everyone, and of course, is also fine. You're not going to miss out on anything during the podcast if you only have the free version. Don't worry. No man left behind. No man, woman, or child left behind. Okay, so that's just the intro of that. Now we're going to move into subtopic B, the Station 6.9 pistol operational overview at a time of 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay, very good. Okay, we're cooking. Oh, this actually might be fantastically on time, or it could go off the rails. You never know. So the pistol. Let's talk about the pistol. So because this test report used a very unique weapon, I wanted to go over some technical details you might want to know if you were going to buy one. Or, maybe if you're going to use one. Or, you know what? Maybe if you're just interested in it and you want to know how it works, okay? And I also want to give you some opinions on its use, because I think the opinions I can give, I think they're genuine. I do. And I think it's going to be valuable for you. Because I'm a gun guy and I know how it feels to buy a gun and not know something and be like, and be surprised in a way that is less than optimal. That's the way I would say that. Okay. So, and I have it right in front of me here to prove that to you. Let me do something. Yep. That's how a Station 6.9 signature through this mic, unloaded, no silencer. That was a bare pistol. So first of all, you need to know up front that this is not a typical pistol, okay? It will not feel like one to you, and it will not be something you find to be comfortable, or it will not be something that you enjoy holding, or frankly, that you enjoy dealing with. I want to be very upfront with you and curt with you, okay? I want to be very, maybe that's not the right word. I want to be very straightforward. I don't want to beat around the bush. The reason why it's not a comfortable thing and really enjoyable to shoot in many ways compared to a lot of other pistols is because it's simply not made for that purpose. And I don't want you to think this is a knock on B&T. I think after we published this article, there were some, very few, but you know how loud a vocal minority can be. There were a few very, very enthusiastic B&T fans that got a little bit emotional because they interpreted some of our writing as less than super positive about this system. And I want them to know that I'm sorry that triggered them emotionally, but it's okay, because they need to know that this is an inanimate object and objects have traits, and that's what we're talking about. Okay? This gun is not for comfort. This gun is not for long duration shooting sessions and training. Okay? The official reason it exists is published by B&T. The colloquial accepted reason it exists is to dispatch living things discreetly. Okay? That's what it's for. Anyway, we don't have to go too far off of that. If you are accustomed to contoured ergonomic grips and controls, like, I don't know, for example, not to harp on it, but it is topically relevant. Like, for example, the HK P30L test host, like the design of that grip, I don't know, even if you're not an HK fan, hold an HK P30L in your hand and tell me you don't enjoy it. That grip should win an award for the ergonomics. I mean, probably, I would think it did in Germany. Who knows? I don't care if they give themselves an award. That thing is, just hold one. You're not, that's an extreme example of a comfortable firearm. For most, I would say for like, the 90th percentile of like human beings, hold that gun. It's not like holding a USP. Like, hold a P30L. Hold it. Okay, you're not going to find that type of physical comfort on a Station 6. You're just not going to. And again, that's not a knock on B&T. I'm describing the weapon system. The grip of the Station 6.9 has very straight edges. It is very blocky. And it is much less comfortable to hold than a Glock, for example, which should give you a subjective feel for the ergonomics, okay? Like, we don't have to beat that to death. The frame of the pistol, it's a single stack magazine pistol, so the grip's very thin, okay, which is actually relatively, that's a positive trait typically for comfort. Now, forward to aft, it's rather wide, okay, so you can get a good purchase on it, meaning you can get a good engaged grip on the grip. It's easy to squeeze the grip. It's easy to keep it stable. Like, particularly if you have at least like normal size hands and normal hand strength. It's not designed for a gigantic, it's not like a Mark 23. Okay. You can hold this. Small hands really I would imagine small hands don't have an issue with the gun. Now, okay, I guess since we're on the subject of hands, I want to skip to the trigger before we talk about the action. So the trigger of the Station 6 is relatively heavy, but that's not the end of the world. It's important you understand. It's not the end of the world because, and this is a little bit weird, kind of, depending on if you're a revolver shooter or not, I guess. Some of you are not. It's not the end of the world because of how you actuate it. So with normal sized hands, because of how close the trigger is to the grip, you're probably not going to be using the pad of your index finger like some of you would be accustomed to using. Therefore, you're not trying to generate a lot of force with that first digit or that first, it was a phalange or something like that. Like whatever the section between a knuckle of the finger is called, whatever that is called anatomically or physiologically, you're not going to be using that tip of your finger. So you're not going to be straining. You're going to be using the second finger section. So you're going to bend your finger around. You're going to hook that trigger. So past that end knuckle, you're going to curl around the trigger to pull it. Like, revolver double action style, right? So you'll be able to get to it, no problem. You'll be able to reach it and you'll be able to actuate it, even though it's heavy. It doesn't feel great, but it's usable. And I like to think of a lot of the B&T triggers on some of their weapons as more like plungers than triggers. And the Station 6, I think, epitomizes B&T trigger technology. It feels like a dang plunger. Is it positive? Well, no. Is it super negative? Well, also no. It's usable. This is a weapon for close murder. Call it euthanasia if you're killing a cow, like their literature says. Call it whatever you want. It's a murder gun. The sights of the gun are pretty much like standard Glock sights with their sight picture. Yeah, very usable. Very, very high contrast. It seems very high quality. The whole gun exudes quality because it's made by B&T. Very good fit and finish, typically, of their products. Doesn't mean all their systems are great. I'm just saying the fit and finish. Like you can create a polished turd. I'm not saying theirs is a turd, but you understand. Like I don't want you to think when I say the fit and finish is good that the system is high performance. I'm being very objective. Okay, I just want to tell you, like, credit where credit's due. The manufacturing is clean. So the sights are good too. Very usable. So what we're going to talk about is what really matters for a gun like this, because you're going to use it close in. Let's be honest, this is a close range weapon. It has wipes, we'll talk about that, but it's close range. The thing that's important about this gun is the action. It's a bolt action pistol. There's a grip safety on top of the rear grip tang. You understand what that means? It's in the web of it interfaces with the web of your hand between your thumb and index finger. The web, the tang of the gun. It's when you get the high purchase, you get that web. You understand how to put a pistol in your hand. You can take a class, they'll show you, get it all up in there. There's a grip safety at the top of that tang. It's not that long though. So you got to remain cognizant of the web of your hand, because it's unlike in 1911. You can't just grab this pistol nonchalantly and engage the grip safety. You might grab it, and if you're not grabbing this gun like you need to purchase it high up like that, if you're not grabbing this gun like that, you might not engage the grip safety. You have to intentionally choke up on the grip with the web of your hand. And when you do, again, because it's not that long, when you, top to bottom, when you do, and that grip safety is depressed, you have now enabled two things to be able to happen. The first thing you've enabled unlocking of the bolt. You are now able to rotate the bolt counterclockwise with your other hand and then pull it back. That's a big deal. Got to do that. When you close the bolt and you rotate it the other direction to lock, you have now loaded the pistol. Okay, you can release the grip safety. You can open the weapon You can open the weapon to discard a round, like without depressing the grip safety again, if you like. That's now disengaged. But the second thing the grip safety's for, besides opening the bolt to chamber a round, is to fire the weapon. The trigger will not engage without you depressing that safety again, okay? So you grip it, you shoot it, then you must continue to grip it to unlock the bolt and load a new round. That safety is a two-function safety. Bolt opening and firing. Okay? Clear? Very good. That's important because that matters because of the way you operate the gun. And if you do not pay attention to that, you will be frustrated because you will not be able to actuate the gun correctly, and you will curse at the gun. I've seen it. I've done it. When you eject a case from the Station 6.9, there's a neat little trick. It's a little Easter egg. I think it's cool. I really do think it's cool. You can use your support hand. So let's pretend you're right-handed and you're holding the gun. Okay, you gotta have that in your head? Cool. You can use your support hand to simultaneously cup the ejection port. So you take your right hand is holding the gun. Take your left hand, cover the ejection port of the gun. Take your left thumb and go under the bolt on the rear of the grip tang and depress that grip safety with your support hand thumb. Now you're holding the gun with your left hand instead of your right. You're cupping the top of the gun with your left hand instead of your right. Now your right hand is free to then, because the grip safety is depressed with your left thumb, your right hand is free to now rotate the bolt and open the weapon. And guess what you've just done? You've ejected a spent case. And where is it? In your left hand, because you were cupping the ejection port. Oh my goodness. So now what is that good for? Well, it's good for, not leaving evidence at the scene, or, maybe being responsible and not polluting the environment with litter on the side of the road when you're euthanizing cattle, as, B&T says, Swiss stuff, totally legal Swiss stuff, chocolate, watches, road cow, euthanasia, all very exact, very high quality. Yeah, the cows on the road. So that's how the gun works mechanically. One second. Das ist good road cow. That's how the gun works mechanically. Let's talk about how the gun works pneumatically. We talked about the mechanics. Let's talk about the pneumatics and the chemistry. Let's talk about pneumatically and chemically, how the gun fires and how the silencers interface. Yeah, let's talk about that. All kinds of physics talking about today. So it's a bolt-action pistol. So just like your bolt-action rifles, all the pressure is expelled through the bore in a perfect world, assuming nothing blows up. To make sure this is like a tiger, both for the silencer not loosening and for the gas seal at the muzzle end, there are O-rings on the male proximal interfaces of the silencers that interface with the barrel shroud that's around this barrel of the gun. The O-rings on the outer diameter of the silencer on the proximal end, and that connects to the gun. You thread the silencer onto the gun. That O-ring does not interface with the barrel. No. It interfaces with the barrel shroud. So you're pseudo sealing with the half 28 threads and then bottoming out, shouldering on the. I'm pretty sure this. I wonder if that does. I wonder if this does all the way shoulder all the way back to on the barrel, or if it's indexing on the O-ring with the other. Regardless, with the normal, if you put a normal silencer on this gun, which you could, it would bottom out and it would index on the barrel shoulder. When you put the B&T silencers on it, they have an O-ring that seals around the OD of the barrel shroud, which is around the barrel. So it's a double seal. And so on that note, let's start talking about the main 6.9 silencer in the next subtopic at a time of 25 minutes and 40 seconds. Oh, butchered that. 25 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay, so this would be, I guess it would be subtopic Charlie, subtopic C. Very good. Okay, and this is probably where we get long. That's fine. So let's talk about the silencer that comes with a gun, which is the wiped 6.9 silencer from B&T. I'm going to talk about the silencer physics and the behavior. So, now I told you this. Now would be a good time, if you haven't already, please pull up the article. The member version would be great if you're a member. The free version, if you are not, is perfectly adequate for this talk. Both are adequate for the discussion, okay? So we already spoke about all the physical details of the weapon that you need to know about right now. Please, if you have a further question, please email us at tech@pewscience.com. That's tech@pewscience.com. We'd be happy to explain that to you further. So let's go ahead and we'll give the bottom line up front for the performance of the weapon with the silencer it comes with. The wiped silencer, and that is in the top graphic of the review. Okay, the main graphic at the very top of the article. Bottom line up front, 35.8 suppression rating, 1 meter left of the end cap, 1.6 meters above the ground, the mil standard test location in the true free field. 44.8 suppression rating, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear. Okay, that brings us to a composite suppression rating of 45.6. Okay, so to be clear, those ratings are for the wiped silencer with the B&T Station 6 with brand new wipes from B&T, and this is valid for Speer Lawman 147 grain subsonic 9mm ammunition and only for Speer Lawman 147 grain subsonic ammunition. Okay, if you use specialty heavier or downloaded 9mm ammunition, the ratings may go up. If you use supersonic NATO plus P ammunition, the ratings may go down. Please understand that the suppression ratings on this website in the Silencer Sound Standard are and always have been tied to a specific weapon and silencer and ammunition. Okay, you longtime Pew Science readers know that. Some of you may not. I thought I would mention it. It's sometimes good to have a refresher. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to pause this and you get a drink of water. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. Now then, if you scroll down in the article from this top graphic, you will see there are many things we have already spoken about. There's more in this article than typical because it's a different weapon. There's all kinds of things to tell you about. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of scroll down slowly and skip to the portion where it talks about the B&T Station 6.9 silencer physical details. Okay, so you can read that on your own time, but what I'm gonna basically paraphrase some stuff and talk to you about. This is a 5.4 inch long aluminum silencer. Okay, it is small, it is light, it weighs just under 6 ounces. It does not have conventional baffles. In fact, it has no baffles. In a sense, it has what B&T calls rubber baffles. In the U.S., we call these wipes. Okay, they're thick. They're approximately a 1/4 inch thick, approximately, and they're relatively hard. The durometer measured hardness is 80A. You can read about what that means on your own time. I can tell you it's harder than typical wipes you would see at the distal end of some silencers, for example, and usually a thinner wipe. Sometimes they're fiber reinforced. These are not. These are not fiber reinforced. They're some kind of polyethylene, or I don't know exactly the rubber compound. Some kind of polyethylene, or maybe there's some other material like that. But they're scored in a cross pattern. Okay, and why? It's because they're so thick, and you really need to induce failure. And that's why you need to induce failure in regular direction. You want to avoid excessive pitch and yaw of the projectile. Okay, that's when you have a projectile that you're launching, and you are penetrating an object, and you're counting on the flight path of the projectile to hit other objects. We measure and quantify pitch and yaw. Okay, that's something we do in weaponeering. A bullet traveling through a wipe is no different. What is B&T trying to do? They're trying to minimize pitch and yaw. So, precision through wiped systems is generally poor. What do I mean by precision? I mean precision on target. Terminal precision. Terminal precision is poor, typically, generally. Your bullet is hitting physical objects after it leaves the muzzle. This is less than ideal. Okay, this is generally not good for precision. The pre-scoring of these thick rubber baffles, if you want to call them that, or thick rubber wipes, it does help that. Okay, in a way. Does some other things too, but this is a really simple and compact silencer. You need to understand that. It has a purpose of being quiet in a small package for discrete operations. Okay? You will have to replace the wipes eventually because they get damaged, and we're going to talk about that. You can do that by removing the end cap. It does not come with a tool, but I believe you can buy a tool. I asked B&T about that via email, and when I get an answer, I will let you folks know about the tool. I've made a note to myself. Whenever I do get an answer from B&T, eventually I will mention it on the podcast or somewhere, okay? Or maybe on social media. I'll let you know. I don't want to leave you hanging because I want to know too. In the context of the wipes, let's talk about the test protocol before we get into the data, okay? And that is actually discussed in the article next after the training silencer physical details. So if you scroll a little bit more down here, because we're going to talk about the training silencer in the next subtopic. So if you there is a little subheading here toward the top of the article it says the B&T Station 69 test protocol. This is important. It's very important to speak to you about this for a few reasons. So as I explained to you in the last episode during the intro talk, when we first launched the article, published it, we did a bigger test than typical with the wiped silencer. And that's because of its nature. Up front, you need to understand that every single suppression rating calculation that you see on the website, and there are hundreds, every one of those hundreds of calculations is performed with 5 shots and only 5 shots. Okay? As you know by now, bolt action or single shot weapons are tested with 5 shots. Semi-autos for most of the history of the standard have been tested with 6 shots. And no matter what, only 5 shots are used in the calcs. Okay? And you should know this. It's written. We talked about this. This makes everything apples to apples with regard to comparisons. Okay? It makes everything apples to apples. The reason that is important, particularly for the silencer sound standard, is because the suppression rating can actually be compared universally. Remember, if you have the shooter's ear suppression rating for a suppressed Mark 18 with silencer A, and you also have it for silencer B, and you have the shooter's ear suppression rating for suppressed MP5 and a suppressed bolt gun with silencer B and with silencer C, all of those numbers can be directly compared with each other. Okay? Now, that might seem obvious to you. since you're used to looking at the suppression rating. That might seem obvious. But what might not be obvious to you is that if you took the peak pressure in units of decibels, if you want, pick a unit, decibel, PSI, pascals, pick a unit of pressure. If you take the peak pressure or the peak impulse in pressure times time, like decibel milliseconds or PSI milliseconds or bar seconds or or Pascal second. If you took the peak pressure or the peak impulse and you tried to compare it for all those silencers on those guns, it won't help you. And why is that? That's because peak pressure and peak impulse are partial parameters. The suppression rating is a holistic parameter. It is calculated from the entire time history, from the entire signature. It is and so that's one part. That's one reason why it's important. The second reason why it's important is because it is specifically designed for dynamic response analysis with dynamic load input. It is not a peak pressure. And it is not a time-weighted average like an LEQ or something. Those don't work across the spectrum of small arms because the signatures are different. They have different amplitudes, frequency, phase, durations. So you can't take waveforms with different parts, different makeups, and compare them to each other without analyzing response from them. That's the basic premise of dynamic analysis. It's not theoretical. Okay, one moment. Extremely well studied, guys. It's extremely well studied, and it's so important to understand. So now you see why it's 5 shots, and it's always 5 shots too. We cannot deviate from that. So we tested the Station 6 wiped silencer with 10 shots. Okay, I just got done telling you we only use 5 shots for the suppression rating. That's true. But we tested the Station 6 wiped silencer with 10 shots. We did this because that was the full weapon capacity. And why did we do it? We wanted to understand how the suppression performance dropped, if it did, with wipe degradation. Okay? We did the same exact thing with the EA Vox S Wipe 300 blackout test. Okay? We did the exact same thing. But in that case, we did 20 shots. Okay? Because it was a bolt action, it's a minifix, so it's a bolt action rifle, but it's AR-15 magazine fed. Okay, so we're like, well, let's do 20 shots. We're not going to do 30 because that's insane, but we'll do 20, which is like, 4 times the normal 5-shot amount. That should give us a good picture of wipe damage. And, mags come in 20s, and they're cool to use. Let's do that. Now, for this test, the gun has a single stack 9mm 1911 magazine, which holds 9 rounds. We didn't have the luxury of high-capacity mags for the gun, so it just so happens that shooting this gun for more... And so we did 9 plus 1, 1 in the chamber, 9 in the mag. It just so happens that shooting this gun for more than 10 shots in a sitting would be insane in normal operation, and so we settled on 10 shots, wrong or right. Now, I know I'm going on and on, but this is important, and we're going to talk about why in a little bit. Now, again, only 5 shots were considered in the suppression rating calculation, but 10 shots were fired to understand the complete behavior. Okay, and I'm going to talk about why, but I wrote this in an article, but I really want to drive it home because I don't want any confusion. And real quick, and a general caution, and I put this in the article too, general caution, and this is like a safety concern. So if you have kids and you're listening with your kids, make sure they listen to this part. And you too, if you're an adult and you have never used a wipe system, but you're thinking about doing it, a quick general caution. If you have a silencer that can accept a wipe, cool. Congratulations. You might use it sometime. I don't know. You might. If you do, please be careful and please closely follow the manufacturer instructions. If you use a wiped system incorrectly, and if you install something that's not a correct wipe, or you do something weird, and you shoot a bullet into something that you shouldn't in your silencer, you could damage the gun, you could damage the silencer, you could damage things around you, you could damage your buddy, you could damage yourself. So please be careful. If you don't know what you are doing, stop. Phone a friend, phone a company, figure it out, and then proceed safely, okay? Ask questions. These are weapon systems. They're intended to kill, and they can kill you. So don't let that happen, okay? These are not toys. These are weapons of war. Got me? They are. We make war. How do we do that? We have weapons. Why? Because other people have weapons. We got to have them. You can't put the genie back in the box, or Pandora's box, or I don't know. You get my point, dude. Guns are dangerous. Treat them with respect, okay? And putting a solid membrane in front of your bullet in a dynamic pressure vessel that's screwed onto the end of your gun, does that sound normal? Well, it's not. How many people have experience doing that? How many people have experience with silencers? Not many. Super niche. You're special if you do. How many people have experience with wiped silencers? Cut the silencer guy number in like 100 pieces, and 1%. I don't know. Super uncommon. Didn't used to be, but super uncommon. Okay, don't hurt yourself. Now let's talk about wipes and how they can completely change suppression. We're going to get into this. It's going to get technical now. And this is in the article too. You folks already sort of know how conventional baffles function, right? You do. Expanding combustion gases, they're forced through different routes in the silencer. Man, they get slowed down, they expand, they slow down, they expand, they get cooled. And then they come out of the silencer. Maybe they're slower than typical. Maybe they're cooler than typical. Maybe they're lower pressure than typical. And maybe that thing makes things less intense for all involved. Maybe things make things more pleasant. Maybe that's the joy of suppressed small arms. Very good. Very good. Okay. You got hundreds of examples of that in the signatures on the website. You've seen that ad nauseum. You guys are experts. Now, when you have a normal silencer with some kind of normal or typical baffles, and you put a wipe on the distal end, so picture, don't, I know maybe I lost you. Get a normal silencer with baffles, your favorite silencer, pick it. Now imagine you put a piece of rubber at the very end of it, the far end where the bullet comes out, and it's like fixed in there. And now you've covered the opening. You have now changed the dynamics of the system. The precursor jetting, the projectile, the main jetting, they all want to come out, but you have put a mechanical barrier in the way. You deform that barrier with all of these things. Then you fail that barrier, and these things travel through the hole you created. The silencer functions exactly the same way, of course. Nothing changed in the early stage of the silencer, but what have you done? You've restricted the downstream gas momentum much later in time. Now, there are some things that happen in early stages due to reflections, and you have changed the physics, but I'm simplifying this for brevity, because I'm going to make a point to you. You've restricted the downstream gas momentum much later in time. So for some systems, it can be a lot quieter. I want you, in your spare time or later, now, whatever you like, if you check out Article 6.38, the 38th article from March of 2021 on the website, you will see this phenomenon I'm discussing right now happen with the energetic armament Vox S wiped test with 300 blackout subsonic. I talked about earlier. We did 20 shots, remember? In that test, you had first round pop, which was loud. Then things got quiet because the wipe was trapping combustion gases. And then what happened as we kept shooting? The system got louder and louder. Why? Because the wipe was breaking more and more and trapping less gas, and the system kept heating, and then the expansion ratio changed, and you kept trapping less gas, and eventually, if you kept shooting, you would eventually asymptotically approach the unwiped case, because the wipe would be gone, which would take you to what? it would take you to Article 6.25, which happened before with no wipe on that gun. So you have those two things to compare and contrast already. You've had that for literally years. You've had that in the silencer standard to compare and to contrast this entire time. You've had the physics. It showed, in fact, that 20-shot wipe test with the energetic armament Vox in 6.38, in fact, when you see the 20, and they're all color-coded in groups, the 20-shot string of impulse, it goes boom, first round pop loud, then quiet, and then you can see it gradually get more intense as the wipe fails. The single wipe fails, and because it's the same exact system, you can compare the magnitudes because it has the same wave shape. That's when peaks do matter. Understand? Okay, so very good, important distinction. When you see that, you can almost imagine in real time as you just look at the plots in that early article of the physics of, and that's how we typically understood wipes to degrade during firing, and that's how we typically understood systems, wipe systems getting louder as the wipes broke. And you saw that, and everything was right in the world. You're like, cool, got it, tracking, understood, awesome. Everything was great. Well understood, especially after that article was published. Okay, I think that was the first, and it remains the only one published ever. Now, one second. Now, what about the Station 6.9 silencer? Well, is it the same as a Vox S with a wipe in the end? Or like the same as like a Wolfman with wipe in the end, or some other silencer? Well, no. No, it's not. It has 4 wipes, and they are thick. They're not thin. They're thick. And they're stiff. And they're the only thing there. There's no other baffles. So instead of a thin membrane deforming, you have a thick membrane being forced open. Okay, stay with me. Last episode, I used the analogy of a garbage disposal rubber membrane but closed. Something I was trying. That was not really good. I think a better, and I'm going to stretch this, but you can imagine with me. I think a better thing to visualize would be like, okay, you remember that movie Ace Ventura, Pet Detective? You remember they made a second one where he's inside a rhinoceros. It's not a real rhinoceros. He's inside the rhinoceros and he's trying to get out because it's very hot inside. He was like doing some kind of operation where he's like covert. And like they're on a nature preserve, like a safari thing, and there's like this family and they're watching this rhinoceros, and Ace Ventura needs to get out and he has to force himself through the rubber anal orifice of the fake rhinoceros to get out because it's really hot inside. The anus membrane probably in that would be much thicker, what I'm talking about, but he's forcing himself through a thick membrane. And that's I'm trying to illustrate to you, what I'm trying, like an object being forced through a thick membrane. And obviously a bullet is coming out of the membrane faster than he was coming out of the rhinoceros, but you get the analogy. Okay, I want you to understand membrane. What I mean by membrane, I want you to understand by what it means to force through an orifice of a membrane. So the reason that's important is because people ask the question, well, how many shots am I going to get out of these dang wipes? And you may be tempted to say like, oh, a magazine or something, like 10 shots maybe. And B&T said that in the VP9 manual. I thought that was interesting. The thing is, though, that's not what our data and analysis shows. Our data shows something completely different happens. So let's get into it. Okay? Scroll down, and I know there's a lot. Skip the summary, table 1. I'm going to scroll down all the way down here. Skip summary, table 1 with the test report peak summary for completeness. Do not get hung up on that. It's going to make you freak out and then show people a bunch of peak DB. It's going to waste their time, and then people are going to spend tens of thousands of dollars and just waste everyone's time. Don't do that. You're going to focus on the wrong thing, and then you're going to miss the forest for the trees, and then you're like, next thing you know, you're buying loud silencers. Go all the way down until you get, sorry, I had to. Go all the way down to figure 1. You will notice that this report is a little bit unique. We usually have figure 1A and figure 1B, which is pressure, And then we'll usually show you figure 2A and figure 2B, which is impulse. This time you'll notice there's a figure 1C and a figure 2C. That is because I wanted to delineate 3 specific things for you. First, I wanted to show you the full history, the full fingerprint in A, of course, like we always do. Then I wanted to show you the early time in Bravo, in B, like we always do, of the initial shots, right? Then I wanted to show you the early time of the later shots in C. Okay? But I wanted to compare the early time of the later shots with the first shot because I wanted to show you some very interesting physics changes that take place with the thicker wipes in the shot later in the shot string. Okay? And this is why I'm talking about why we did 10-shot test. This has never been shown publicly ever in the history of small arms. Okay, I'm serious. The first thing we did with the wiped energetic armament test in 2021 with a single thin distal wipe, that had never been shown in the history of small arms ever, publicly, that we've seen. And now this is another thing that's never been shown ever, publicly. Ever. Okay, so I'm going to show it to you now, right now on this episode, and it's wild and it's awesome. We're going to start with figure 1A. Complete blast pressure fingerprint 1 meter left of the end cap in the free field. Complete. Nothing omitted. Understand? Mill standard. That's what that looks like. That's why we test like that. Free field. Get it? Okay. What's the only reflection you see? The ground. Huh? Yes. Okay. Full history. Well past all pressure signatures in the time domain. True testing. Now, notice anything really strange. Like immediately, you might look at this. I know it's a long duration, but a long duration time domain on the horizontal axis of figure 1A. I understand that. That's on purpose. So don't think that we've somehow compressed something that we're showing you something strange. The reason it looks strange is because something physical has happened. Okay. Even though that, yes, this is a 9mm, so it's not a huge cartridge, it's not a ton of combustion energy. This is still a suppressed system, and what you're seeing is an incredibly low primary duration. Incredibly low. Wild, right? The blast load happens, and then it's as if someone truncated it. Someone turned it off. Okay? It's almost like someone closed the door on it, isn't it? It's almost as if it got stopped by, you guessed it, a series of really thick wipes. Yes, the wipes are pre-scored. Yes, they are being pierced by load and mechanical bullet interaction. However, they are thick and they are excellent doors. Excellent. You see the ground reflection. Remember, I just told you about that. The ground reflection happened a little later after the peak. So this is indeed real. If you had any doubt, do the math on the timing. If you don't believe that ground reflection is right for mill standard locations at 1.6 meters over the ground, I urge you, do the math. Check the work. Check it. Peer review it, peers. That's stupid. You know what I mean? Look at it. It's there for you. It's been there the whole time. You can peer review any of it. Do it. Now that you've seen that and you see the gravity of what you're looking at, I want you to see that it has not been truncated. Please look at figure 1B in early time. This is crazy. Now, we have delineated the first 5 shots with thicker lines. Okay, the first 5 shots are thicker lines than shots 6 through 10, but the color scheme is repeated because you're very used to it and to avoid confusion. So figure 1B shows the first 3 shots only. First thing I want to tell you is that first round pop, FRP, still happens. Wipes can't stop FRP. FRP is a function of extra combustion happening due to extra oxidizer being present. In this case, air. Just because you have a wipe does not mean FRP goes away. It means you trap more of the FRP, just like you trap more of the second shot and the rest of the shots. The wiped Vox S in 2021 showed this is true. And now in 2025, this test with a different wipe configuration also shows that this is true. What can we now say definitively? That in single thin wipe configurations and multi-thick wipe configurations, first round pop is persistent if present in the unwiped case. Yes? Okay. physically true, objectively true. We can say that definitively now, and it only took 2 studies. Okay, very good. What you are seeing in Figure 1b, what you're seeing first is the pressure waves pushing through the wipes. I know. Then you see something that happens when you fail a membrane. And this is really technical. It's going to be great. I know that these wipes are scored. Okay. I know you're piercing them, but the mechanism of blast load generation is very similar. And let me be very careful in how I say that. The mechanism of blast load propagation is very similar, and there's a sequence that occurs that is very important here. Okay, you get a very sudden rise to peak blast pressure. That is the extremely sudden release of blast pressure and bullet pressure wave through the wipe hole physically. Okay, then as soon as the wipe is able to do so, it will start to close. Notice how I'm being very careful what I say. It will start to close. Things are happening very quickly. The bullet's gone. Okay, but there's still combustion gases trying to expand out of the hole. The show's not over. Just certain parts are leaving. You feel me? The wipe is not thin. The wipes are not thin. They are very thick. So, what does that mean? The system has a higher strength and stiffness. What does that mean? It means that it is able to respond more quickly. It responds more quickly to opening, and it responds more quickly to closing. Stiffer things deform more quickly when subjected to dynamic loads. Stiffness attracts load. I want you to understand that basic mechanical concept. That basic structural mechanics concept. Stiffness attracts load. Okay, that's an objectively true statement. Stiffer things deform more quickly when subjected to dynamic loads. In general, okay, I'm sure you could think of some cases when whatever, but okay. So, what kind of dynamic loads are we talking about? Blast loads, like these. So what happens when the wipes close really quickly? Because they're going to. I just told you why. What happens when they close really quickly? They create a pressure differential, and you get negative phase. There's no more pressure pushing, so you get rarefaction. Nothing to fill the void. This molecular relaxation. So what you see, and there is a name for this, is an N wave. It looks like an N, like the letter N. Up, down, back up again, like the letter N. It's labeled in the figure. That's why this looks like this. Those are the physics responsible for that. Same thing happened with the wiped energetic armament Vox S in 2021, but in a different way. And now we're going to talk about why, or eventually here. Now notice in Figure 1b how everything's behaving the same. And what I mean everything, I mean shot 1 and shot 2 and shot 3, besides shot 1 being a little bit higher amplitude because of FRP. Notice how it's all kind of laying on top of each other pretty much. I mean, for the first few shots after the FRP, you look at this, things are actually humming along and actually very predictable. Okay? The wipes are resilient and they are opening and closing efficiently. And they are trapping gas. And all is well in the world. You are suppressing your muzzle blast with your 4 rubber wipes. All is right in the world. Now, what happens when you keep going? Go to Figure 1C. We haven't, and remember, these are now three figure pair, or they're trios. We have not hopped spaces. We're still in pressure space. Still blast pressure. Not looking at impulse yet. We're Figure 1C, still blast pressure. But now we're looking at shots later in the string. We're going to keep FRP in there for reference, but instead of shots 2 and 3, we're going to look at shots 7, 8, and 9. Okay? This is where things get really weird. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. Everything is explainable. It's all physical. But you got to look at it. Here is where we get a front row seat to wipe damage. But not just any wipe damage. Thick wipe damage. Here we see something very special. You still see initial precursor flow and the leading pressure wave. You still see that. They're all in sync with the earlier shots, but then you see something very odd. The primary pressure pulses are becoming reduced in amplitude, and they are also shifting forward in time. Okay, they are shifting forward in time in both the positive phase and the negative phase. The entire N wave has shifted. You are seeing time lag in the entire pressure pulse, but the whole thing is anchored by the initial precursor. So you can see that you're actually stretching the event later in the shot string. That's what you're looking at there in figure 1C. Physically, what is happening is the wipe is beginning to respond less dynamically. It is slower to open slower to open fully and slower to close fully. This is caused by temperature and damage. It's caused by stretching of that orifice. It's becoming looser. The wipes are more loose now. So at first, you would think, oh, that's bad, right? Like on its surface, you would think, oh, that's bad. It's going to get loud. But no, it's not going to get loud. That's not what's being shown in the waveforms, and that's not what's being shown in our analysis and the calculations with the waveforms. That's simply not what happens. What we are seeing is that this is a less dynamic event with lower amplitude, and what do we know about certain waveform features and system response? We know they're tied together in a strong way. Your ears are a system, and in a lot of ways, they're not much different than other systems we understand very well in this discipline. Slower rise time to peak with less amplitude and slower phase change is less dynamic, less intense, less impulsive. You have now quieted the gunshot more in shot 10 than you did in shot 2. The B&T Station 6 is loud during the first shot. It gets quieter, and it keeps getting quieter through shot 10. And all of our data points to, all of this data, it all points to the likelihood that it would continue to get quieter past shot 10. Now, do we know what the limit is? No. Unfortunately, we didn't do a 20-shot test. We didn't have another mag. It only comes with one mag. Didn't want to buy another one. Sorry, didn't know this was going to happen. Couldn't imagine it would, but it did. Do we know if this would be the same if you put down the gun, let it cool, and did it again? No, we don't know that. But do we know what we tested? And yeah, we know what we tested. We do know that if you put another mag in this right away, you would at least be as quiet as shot 10 with shot 11. We're pretty sure about that. Does it get louder in shot 12? Don't know. Does it get louder in shot 15? I don't know. Could be. I don't know. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. First, we only use 5 shots for the suppression rating. Remember I told you that? Remember? So now you see why I had to keep telling you that. If we had used the last 5 shots, it would have scored way higher. But that's not fair. Well, not way higher, but higher. But that's not fair. That's not what we do. So tough cookies. Okay, we're not going to give this silencer special treatment. That'd be weird and be wrong. We need to count FRP. And we need to analyze what you guys count on. And we need to be consistent with the pedigree. Okay. The other reason why this is important is because B&T says the suppression efficiency is reduced after 10 shots. That may be true. But it's certainly not true in a continuous string of fire. Not according to our test. At least not with this ammo. And that's the information we have. Okay? This is crazy, right? Like, you wouldn't think this. Like, it's not intuitive to you. But guess what? It's not just isolated to blast pressure. And that's what I'm saying. We have multiple pieces of evidence to show you. I'm not done. It's not just isolated to pressure, guys. It happens with momentum, too. It happens with the energy. So let's look at impulse. Look at figure 2. Again, figure 2A, 2B, and 2C. Same drill. Very clean. Okay, start with 2A, please. Very clean. Do you notice anything strange again? You should. Super short duration. Why? Blast load disappears. Why? The doors close. There are 4 doors. They all close. Cool, right? Yes. Truncates the wave, and you also see ground reflection. Yes. And guess what? Pressure space and impulse space. When you see things in multiple spaces, you can be confident that they're real. Okay. Now, figure 2B. Zoom in. You see what you would expect to see the impulse do from an N wave. Yes, very textbook. It actually couldn't be more textbook. All you physicists out there would understand the integral would look like this. Textbook. Now, that's fine. It's very easy to see, and you can see, read more in there's details if you want to look at the article. Now, figure 2C, this is when we add the later shots. Now, this is like, I don't want to use the term smoking gun because like we're talking about a gun and it's weird, and I don't want to be like weird like cliches. But what do you see in 2C, guys? What do you see in figure 2C, guys? You see momentum lag. You see clear momentum lag. And even if you tried your best to time shift, to try to pretend it wasn't real, guys, it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Look at that. Look at these rise times and look what they're doing. Look at the shapes of the impulse waves. You can see the rise time lag in the damn impulse waveforms. And if that doesn't convince you of the change in mechanical wipe dynamics, I don't know what's going to convince you. Okay? This is the first time, to my knowledge, in this field of study specific to small arms, that this phenomenon has been demonstrated. This is very technical, but again, very important and very real. You are looking at direct empirical evidence of why a thick wipe system gets quieter as you shoot it. From virgin wipe through temperature heating cycle in 10-shot string. Okay? Completely opposite to a distal thin wipe system. Full stop. Write that down, put it on a t-shirt. That's first time that's ever been shown. Ever. To my knowledge. And that's crazy. All this is explained in technical language in the article. Please read it for more details. There's actually a ton more details in the article, and we don't have time to go through them all today, obviously. Because we're already an hour in. I got way more to talk about. 1 second. Man, I'm glad I'm feeling better because without me, I'm not sick anymore, man. When I was sick, I would not be able to do this. What are we doing now? Where was I? Oh, right. So this is super important. So one thing I do need you to understand is that this is not a VP9. The VP9 has a ported barrel. It's an integrally suppressed weapon, like an MP5SD, like the VP9, the Veterinary Pistol 9, whatever. It has a ported barrel, so it's integrally suppressed like an MP5SD. Understand? So it's bleeding off muzzle blast out of with ports in the barrel, meaning that the projectile is going to slow down and you get extra suppression. That just like an MP5SD does. That's what the VP9 does. The Station 6.9 is not that. The Station 6.9 is a fixed barrel bolt action pistol with no porting. Different gun, different sport. Now, B&T said that their VP9 has a signature amplitude of 125 decibels of peak sound pressure. I think that's probably wrong, but hey, giving them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they measured really far away with weak ammo, or maybe they measured at a really slow sample rate, or both. You would have to really try to get that number from reality, I think. I could be wrong. But based on the waveforms that we've showed you so far, even if the barrel was ported, you would have to do some magic to get 125 dB. Because, I mean, just look at look at figure 1B, and the internal combustion and internal wipe damage is 128. So, you're not, I don't know, bro. I don't know that you're getting 125 peak in the whole history. I'm just I'm not throwing shade. People get upset when I say things that aren't perfect about people, and it's or companies or products, and it's what, you want me to lie to you? This is as real as it gets. All right. It's like the UFC, man. I love that sport. MMA. They're always it's as real as it gets, but it's not, because they do have rules. You can't bite people. You can't eye gouge anymore. Stuff like that. So, but this is real. It's you can't I'm gonna be real with you, and figure 1B shows something that's it's raw, unfiltered. So what I was saying is maybe they measured it far away, so maybe it's greater than 1 meter, or maybe they measured really slowly, so they missed all the peaks and they only measured the first little blip. I don't know. It could be true, and they wouldn't be lying. They're just they don't know what they're they don't know what they don't know, and maybe they have a wrong answer. I'm just saying don't think it's 125. Don't think you're gonna hear 125 dB from a gun like this. It's a small gun, and it's a full power freaking cartridge. Okay, maybe we're going to test a VP9 sometime. I don't know. I think it would be cool. It would be a great comparison to this, I think, but that day is not today. Now, before we go to the training silencer, which we need to do, let me just say, performance-wise, the 6.9 with wipes is doing very good at the shooter's ear. One of the reasons for that is because it's a bolt-action pistol. There is no ejection port blast, guys. Okay, that's a huge hazard reducer. I cannot overstate how severe ejection port blast is for the operator. Ejection port blast loads are severe for the shooter. I do not think some people understand that. When you look at the shooter's ear suppression ratings for semi-auto systems in the rankings table, pay attention to how low those numbers can get. Ejection port blast is real. It's not your friend. Now, you look at the muzzle suppression rating and it's lower. Right? So this was, what did this get? 44.8 at the ear, 35.8 at the muzzle. Category drop. Why? Well, the silencer's super small and you have a big dynamic load coming out of the end of it. Does it get quieter the more you shoot? Well, yes, and we've been over that and we've been over why. However, the first 5 shots with 4 virgin wipes with actual real ammo are what you see here in the ratings. Is that appropriate for an assassin's tool? Maybe for you. Maybe collecting your brass and the FRP of the system is okay for you and it helps you complete your mission. Godspeed. Some folks may prefer a conventional silencer on a semi-auto and they may get more performance, but policing their brass may be harder. So hey, all about what you need. You can always hold your slide shut if it doesn't have a hammer. Maybe, you can do that with a Glock, right? Take a Glock, it's striker fired or FN, striker fired, F509 or something. You hold your hand on the back of it and you shoot with a silencer and it's not going to cycle and it's going to be quieter because there's no ejection port blast. Figure it out. Okay? You never know. FRP is loud on this one, guys. You're not going to hide it. We measured it. We analyzed it. It's a big takeaway. Remember it. Okay, so read the rest of the article on that part to get the details. What we're going to do, we're going to scan members. I implore you, look at the freaking shooter's ear stuff in this article. It's really important. So what we're going to do is now we're going to move into the training silencer at a time of 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 54 seconds. Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Okay. You know how you come back after vacation, when you're a kid and you can't write with your pencil because you hadn't written, and you're like, oh my God, my handwriting's weird because I haven't written in a while because I've been out on vacation or whatever. I feel like, oh my gosh, I was sick the whole time and now I'm over an hour. I'm like, oh, I need training wheels. I think the last episode was way short. I'm like, I can't believe this is so long. 1 second. Straight shots too are hard. It's cool. Training silencer. Okay, this should be actually much easier for you to follow in the written text and much more familiar. In fact, this should be exactly like looking at a bolt gun test result paper, an analytical white paper, right? Why? Well, because it's a bolt gun. It just happens to be a pistol, not a rifle. Now scroll back up to the top of the article real quick. I know we're on section 6.174.2 in the article, but scroll all the way to the top till you get to the colored graphic real quick. Because I want to get you the bottom line up front for this silencer. 34.0 muzzle suppression rating, 39.5 shooter's ear suppression rating for a composite rating of 40.9. Okay, so let's real quick. Muzzle suppression rating dropped with silencer, but not a whole lot. Not a whole lot, right? Because we went from 35.8 to 34.0. Really not a huge drop in muzzle suppression rating. Okay. Now the shooter's ear suppression rating dropped by half a category. It dropped from 44.8 to 39.5. It dropped a lot more. Okay. Non-trivial, but not crazy. Interesting, right? So let's talk about it. The silencers are exactly the same size. One had 4 rubber wipes, and this training silencer has 5 aluminum star baffles. So in the first case, you have 4 rubber wipes that are super stiff and move really quickly to open and close like doors to trap gas. In the second case, you have 5 old school Knights Armament style star baffles to create turbulence and slow down gases, and they almost do as well as the wipes, kinda. So does this pass the smell test? I mean, is this reasonable on its face? Okay, is this reasonable to you? I say to me it is, and I think it should be to you. A reasonable silencer user or a reasonable silencer researcher would say that yes, this does make sense. The silencers are the same size, and given what is inside them, it's a reasonable result. Okay, but of course, no one has written this down until now. So writing things down when they're correct is good, but no one quantified it. So I was a little surprised at first, but then I started to look at it. I was like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. It would be a little louder, but it probably wouldn't be that much louder because it has, it has like 5 baffles instead of 4 wipes, and they do work, and they got it from Knight's Armament, so they have a method to the madness. There's a lot of surface area on the baffles. That's why the crimp cones work so well. And okay, and B&T machined them. So, the more you look at it, the more you look inside it, you're like, okay, I'd buy this. I'd buy that. I think. Okay, 1 second. Now, let's go all the way back down. I know I'm all over creation for you. Scroll back down to where we were before. 6.174.2. All the way down. You'll know it when you see when you see table 2 that I'm going to ask you to skip. Okay, we're going to do the very typical exercise of looking at the fingerprint of the training silencer. Now this is going to be old hat to you because it's going to be the typical 2-part figure delineation for pressure and impulse. Now, figure 5A and figure 5B. Training silencer fingerprint in pressure space, blast pressure. What do you notice immediately? Well, it's a completely and utterly different fingerprint than the primary wipe silencer, right? Why? Well, it's because they're completely and utterly different silencers, just like I explained. So why would their signatures be the same? They'd have to be different. They're completely and utterly different systems. They're exactly the same size and weight, but the signatures are completely different. And this is actually really great. This is for all the folks that say that all silencers sound the same. This article right here shows in black and white why that statement's insane. Right? Like, even if you don't want to look at the calculated suppression rating and that makes you not be able to sleep at night and makes you all mad, don't look at it. Ignore it. I don't care. Look at the blast pressure history. Look at figure 5A. What do you see? What do you see in 5A? Well, you see longer blowdown than before, right? Why would that be? Well, it's venting gas. Where? Out the front. Why? Well, that's what baffles do. There are no wipes, so there's no door shutting. Okay. So you're just getting a bleed down. Now zoom into early time in figure 5B. How many N waves do you see? Well, none. You don't see any N waves. Why? Well, because instead of N waves, you're getting shock waves and they repeat periodically. Why would you get periodically repeated in-phase shock waves out of this silencer? Well, it's a bolt gun. Things are bouncing, and it's small, and the star baffles are doing it. No wipes are opening and closing. You're witnessing machine star baffle blast propagation with incredibly high momentum dump, incredibly high-speed gas propagation. Short silencer, loud. And you want to see that in a different way? Look at figure 6. Look at the impulse. Okay? Look at the rise time on the impulse plots. If you were to compute an omega metric, which you could if you wanted to, you have the formula, what would you get? You'd get something low, yes? The slope is steep. Why? Well, not trapping a lot of gas, are you? No. What else is happening? Big FRP. What else? It gets better by about shot 3. Not a high-performance silencer, but hey, this is only for training, right? Supposed to mimic the wipe system so you don't go through a lot of wipes. Same size, same weight. Louder is what it is. Not super louder, but it's louder. Now, guys, there's tons more in this article. We don't need to go through it all, but those are the high points. I think we should close by talking about some basic comparisons. It's valuable. Scroll down all the way, skip the member stuff, which is awesome. You deserve it because you're worth it. You should buy a membership and read it. Scroll down to figure 9, red and blue bar chart. Very important. Let me make this a little bigger so I can see it on my screen for you. Okay, sorry. I'm getting tired. Okay, so what did we do in figure 9? We did something a little crazy, and don't be mad, but we did it. We took all the P30L semi-auto pistol data and we put the B&T Station 6.9 silencers with the Station 6 on the same chart. Now, is that apples to apples? Well, it's not host to host, no. But suppression rating? Absolutely. The suppression ratings are apples to apples because they consider the whole waveform, so the severity to you maps the same way. Risk is risk. Again, wouldn't work with peak dB. Don't do it with peak dB. It's not going to work. Hey, go do it if you want. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't if I were you. It's the power that and maybe I should have said this. Maybe I said it in the article. I don't know. Let me say that again in a different way. The only reason Figure 9 can exist and be useful to you is because of the suppression rating. We couldn't put the Station 6 silencers on this chart without the suppression rating. Because what would the metric be? Well, it couldn't be peak dB, wouldn't matter. And frankly, for that matter, all these others, this chart wouldn't work without the suppression rating. You couldn't, these are all different silencers and all the waveforms are different because they're all different systems. How in the world would we compare them? Well, without the suppression rating, you can't. That's why I think these bar charts are so cool. And that's why that's why when you go to the ranking section, there's only the suppression rating in there. No other, there's no impulse, there's no pressure impulse. You understand why we keep adding to the rankings table and it keeps getting bigger? And no one else has that? Because it's a decoder ring. It's cool, right? So, risk is risk. You feel me? What do you see? Look at the chart. What do you see when looking at this chart with the B&T silencers in red? There's two of them. They're marked in red. They are louder on the Station 6 than a lot of things are on a full-size semi-auto pistol. But they're also quieter than some things. For example, the short configuration of the rugged Obsidian 9 is much louder than the Station 6 training silencer. Why? Well, the short configuration of the Obsidian 9 is even shorter, and it's just not a good design. The wiped B&T system is quieter than the short configuration of the Tyrant 9 MHD. And you know what? You should probably expect that. It's close, though. Training silencer is kind of similar to an Omega 9K, which is interesting considering it's on a bolt gun and the Omega 9K is on a semi-auto. It shows you how good the Omega 9K is, right? Right? You can't get mad at me for talking about the Obsidian and the Omega 9K and the Station 6 because they're not clients, right? So you don't get to say, oh, he's paid off. No, dude. You see what I mean? I'm telling you guys, just use it. This is you don't have to like it. But if you're not using this data, what are you doing? There is something shocking. What may be a bit shocking to some of you, and I think, oh God, how do I say this without making you mad? No, it's true. I have to say it. I think this should be a little shocking. The performance of the short configuration of the Cat SC on a semi-auto, I think you really need to look at when you look at this Station 6.9 for context. This is on a semi-auto that produces ejection port blast. The shooter's ear suppression rating, which is a measure of the acute risk to the operator in the free field, with a short configuration of the Cat SC is 49.8. The wiped bolt-action pistol from B&T is 44.8. Guys, semi-auto pistol compared to a bolt gun. Guys, what does that mean, 10,000-foot view? It means technology is advancing in a big way, and that's true. It means the game's changing. Really, I hate to use that phrase, but the silencer game has changed now. It's now a different sport. And that's not hyperbole. And you know why it's not hyperbole? Because the Station 6.9 silencer is 5.4 inches long and it's on a bolt gun. And the short SC is 5.5 inches long and it's on a semi-auto. And it's outperforming the white bolt gun system for the first 5 shots. Would you say that was possible a few years ago? Maybe not. I mean, maybe, but maybe not. Would you say that was possible 10 years ago? Probably not. what about 30 years ago when these star baffles were first getting popular? Definitely not, dude. Definitely not. There are levels to the game, guys, and I'm so glad we got this done. It's cool for the history. It's cool for the recent news about it, the Station 6 and how it was on national news. It's really cool to get B&T into the pedigree, which has been a goal of ours and really a personal goal of mine since I started this effort, because B&T has been around a long time. This is way before B&T USA existed. I would always want, like, I always kind of wanted an Impulse 2, like the 9mm silencer, like, just to have it, because it was like we couldn't get them easily because they were foreign. And then like there was a U.S. company that kind of did. Anyway, that's a story for another time. But yeah, getting B&T into the pedigree was like a goal of mine personally. So I'm glad we started that. That's cool. And I really think this article is cool because for the technical contribution to the state of practice. Like, even if you don't like Pew Science and you don't like the results and you don't like this brand or whatever, you got to respect like the fact that this science is out here now. That's like really cool. Like, no matter what side of the aisle you're on in silencers, okay? Like, don't politicize it. Just know it's objectively awesome, and it's cool that we have it. So, a multi-thick and stiff wipe-only system has now been fully characterized publicly, and the data analysis is available worldwide. The silencer community just got another feather in its cap, another piece of the Rosetta Stone. It's another piece of the Rosetta Stone. Right? Another. It's like the riddle of silence, just like the riddle of steel. We're trying to solve it. Okay, I say I tell my mom, like, look, Mom, we did it. It's like, it's a big deal to me. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned all about the Station 6. I've learned more than I thought I ever would. When we bought this thing, I did not think we were going to go this deep, and we did. Of course we did. I do want to tell you real quick, some crazy stuff's coming before SHOT Show. It's actually nuts. You're going to see it next week, actually. Just decided that. So you have no idea what it is, which is the cool part, which it makes it really cool when you have no idea. Stay safe out there, friends. I will talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.